Hi everyone, you're watching Alpha Woman. I'm your host Kalpana Singhal, founder and chief editor CXO TV, our flagship brand of Tech Plus Media. Alpha Women series is an initiative bringing leaders and achievers on the platform to share inspiring stories while discussing and challenges in the industry. The Alpha Women joining me today is a brilliant banker who is scripting the Federal Bank's digital journey. Having worked with Standard Chartered Bank for more than 25 years, she was the CEO and head of consumer banking of Standard Chartered Bank in Brunei before joining the Federal Bank in November 2015. Please welcome Ms. Shalini Warrior, Executive Director of Federal Bank. A very warm welcome to you, Shalini, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here, Kalpana. Thank you.
Amen. So, Shalini, let me start with asking you something which I'm sure women, not just in banking, but in any sector, would like to know about you. So it's like you have over 28 years of banking experience and a well-known personality in the banking industry. So, what are the three things that excite you about your journey in the banking industry?
Thank you, Kalpana. So actually, I've been a banker all my life. So that's the profession that I've obviously enjoyed a lot. And I do believe I've been able to contribute to the industry in general. But if specifically to your question, what is it that excites me about this industry? There are three things that I can point out to. In the first instance, it would be the fact that banking is an industry which is extremely interconnected with people, whether it's in the form of customers or in the form of employees. It's extremely well connected with people, and I enjoy that interaction with people. The second is I'm on the retail side of the business, and therefore that gives me the opportunity to do a lot of product innovation, particularly over the last few years where digital has become such an integral part of our life, and there is so much of digital innovation that is happening. Every day one reads about something new, and that kind of gives me the kick, gives me those challenges. Last but not the least, in my career, I've been exposed to a lot of cultural diversity. I've worked across multiple countries, interacted with multiple geographies, and I think that's given me a broader perspective to life in general. So I think it's a combination of all this that makes banking very interesting and useful.
Yeah, fantastic. So, as women themselves are naturally, more socialized. So, I think networking with people must be, something which you are enjoying. And digital is something, now all the businesses are actually running on the backbone of digital itself. So definitely. So what has been the driving force to get you where you are today? And please talk about one of your biggest success and the biggest failures and your learnings from those experiences.
Yeah. So I think, in my view, successes and failures can happen continuously through one's career. And I've also experienced big ones, small ones. For example, when a customer is happy, it's a great success. It's a small one, but it becomes, it puts a smile on my face to say, yes, I've made this customer happy. At the same time, there are days when, customers have been unhappy with something that we've not done correctly, and that kind of brings a frown on the face. So there are multiple of these instances that happen. But if I were to focus on a couple of them from what I consider personally and professionally as being either success or things that we could have done better, I'll give you two examples that probably will help make it kind of live. The first is from a professional standpoint and more from my career standpoint, the opportunity that I took to move to this country called Brunei as the chief executive officer in Standard Chartered Bank. So this was my first international assignment. It was a country which I had hardly heard anything about. I literally had to look up the map to find out where it was. And it was kind of a very, very different context in which I was going in over there because I'd never done a CEO role before and I was going in as a CEO. Now, one choice could have been to kind of not take up that opportunity. The other was what I chose to do, which is with the help of Standard Chartered Bank at that time. I took the opportunity and plunged into it. I went into the country. It's a small geography, Southeast Asia. Islam dominated, but very, very open to all cultures. And I kind of used the first few months to learn a lot more about the country and the culture of the country and the fabric of the country. And I truly enjoyed myself. I moved on from there to other countries like Indonesia, Dubai, etc. But I think that was literally the stepping stone of going outside my comfort zone and using that as the basis to kind of, do other things. So that I think was what I would consider to be seizing opportunities and working hard to make it a success. The other is more recently in August of 2018, when I was working with Federal Bank, we did have a challenge because Kerala faced, unfortunately, a huge issue of floods, and we had some impact on our data center at that time. So we were in a position where people were impacted with the floods, the data center was impacted with the floods, and I was handling operations, technology, etc. at that time. How we, some of the failures we had, some of the challenges we had with customers at that time was really a big learning for us as a bank, as well as for me personally, on what needs to be done to ensure something like business continuity and disaster recovery are well embedded in any organization. And that was, I think, a learning. The broad point, however, I would make, Kalpana, is in any of these, whether it's success, failure, small, big, whichever dimension it is, I think the point is look out for those opportunities and seize those opportunities. There will always be some learning or the other from them. There's a huge amount of focus and discipline that is required. You need to invest in it so that you're able to understand what the situation is and make the best out of it. And be resilient, have grit, have resilience, because things will go wrong. There's no doubt about it, but there will always be the, silver star at the end of it, the shining light at the end of it. So those are really my learnings, and that's how I treat life, right? Take it in your stride and move ahead.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. So, women have not only outpaced men in showing their mettle in their personal lives, but when it comes to professionalism, they have not left any stone unturned to prove their leadership prowess. How does it feel to be a woman in a male dominated industry? And did you experience resistance while leading men?
So I think to some extent, I must admit, banking has become a lot more, diverse in its workforce. Particularly at entry levels, banks like us have very large percentage. Our overall workforce, we have about 42% female workforce. Entry level, it's actually higher. But yes, as you go up the chain, I think the leadership levels are just coming up. And to that extent, yes, there is a male domination up the pyramid. But I think overall, I think a lot of progress in the banking industry. And to be fair, the industry has had some role models also out there. If you look at our ex-SBI chairperson, Arundhati Bhattacharya, she's a role model really for a lot of banking women. But to your broader point on resistance while leading with men, maybe this is my personal experience. I honestly have not faced that. It's more personal, I would think. I know there have been instances where my friends have experienced some of it, but for me personally, it's not been. The broader point, however, is change management is always difficult. So I'll give you an example of where I went into Indonesia and had to kind of literally reconfigure the bank completely because profitability was a concern and we had to exit a lot of people. It's not an easy job for anybody, whether you're leading men or women or whether you're a male or a female. Exiting people is never easy. But I think the investment I made in kind of a more empathetic approach to it, rather than just being very hard-nosed about it, talking to people, explaining the rationale for it, seeing what can be done for the displaced people in terms of other alternative opportunities. A combination of IQ and EQ, bringing all of that together helps. So in my view, change and resistance to change is universal, whether it's men, women, whatever. Collaboration, communication helps. And that's been my experience over the last 30 years.
Yeah. So, what are your comments on inclusive diversity in the banking industry, and what do you think is the best part of being a woman in the banking industry?
So I think my sense is that women lend themselves very well to a financial services industry. As I said before, the big chunk of it is really about dealing with customers, dealing with people. That is what banking is about. notwithstanding all the progress made on digital, etc., at the end of the day, Kalpana, this is about human relationships. I'm dealing with a person, I'm dealing with his or her money, his or her investments, his or her business, etc. That is what it is about. And let's be clear, women have a higher emotional quotient than men. I think it's a accepted fact. And while it may be a stereotype, I think it's a stereotype that has proved itself over and over again. So I think the sector itself lends itself because of this emotional quotient, empathy, dealing with customers, etc. That's one. The other is there are role models, as I mentioned before, many role models within an institution, in the banking industry as a whole, in the broader financial services industry. There are role models that people like me have looked up to. My kind of second generation, third generation are looking up to. The third is women, again, maybe stereotype or cliche, but women lend themselves better to roles which involve multitasking, which involve bringing analytical skills to the table. They lend themselves better, and I think that helps. Having said that, there are challenges, no doubt, for women in the banking industry. I have faced it. My colleagues face it. I think part of the challenge is how do you balance the need for example, you get transferred very often. How do you balance that? What do you do with things like maternity leave, etc., when you're out of the workforce for some time? Those are challenges, and those are challenges common to across. I think financial services has it better than manufacturing. We tend to be better from a gender quotient perspective. But I think to a large extent, women also have to accept the fact that this is an industry that they can do well in, like all of us have done. So I think it's an industry that lends itself. I do believe that the banking and financial services industry have less challenges on gender diversity when compared to some of the manufacturing outlets that we have. And today you can hear enough examples of manufacturing units doing well from a gender diversity. So why would banking not do well?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you have highlighted quite a few deterrents, that you have in your opinion, especially in the banking sector, that, women succeeding in the workplace. And I'm sure there are too many others also. So, we can talk in length, in the coming questions about those challenges. So, especially, during this current time when we say the new normal, what are the effects of the pandemic you see on the career of the woman?
So, Kalpana, I do a lot of work with the Indian Women Network, which is a program that is run by the Confederation of Indian Industry. I spend a lot of time with them to develop women, and over the last couple of years, I've been spending a lot of time to kind of understand the impact of this pandemic on the career of women. And I think it has been a black swan event. It has been something that has definitely impacted the career of women, generally speaking. Why do I say that? Because I think this whole couple of years literally of work from home, it's only now that people are starting to get back a little bit. Work from home has meant that the boundaries between personal and professional have got blurred. It's all become one kind of continuum. You're doing something in the morning for the home, then you're doing something at work, then you're suddenly distracted by somebody else who's there, etc. So I think that blurring has had more impact on women by their very nature. They carry a larger part of the burden at home. So that has had an impact, that whole blurring of it. Whereas earlier it was at least reasonably clear. You could do this, then go to the office, work in the office, and then come back home. The compartmentalization was better. So I think the second part of the impact has been that during the pandemic, the natural access that was available to caregivers has come down materially. Maids, parents, etc., were all impacted, and that has impacted women. So I think that has really had, all of this has had an impact, and we've seen a lot more dropout of women from the workforce than we have seen from men, based on statistics. Now, what can we do about it? That's a better option to look at. And I think companies have now recognized this and started working on bringing back women into the workforce. So a lot of programs are run with mentoring, with re-education of women for new skills, etc., and looking at hybrid models so that they can get the best of both worlds. You come into the office for maybe 2 days a week, 3 days a week, but you're at home, so you get the best of both worlds. A lot of the IT industry has already started that. A lot of the others have also started work on that. And I think it's early days, but I think over the next couple of years, yes, it has put us back by 2 or 3 years, but I think we'll come back in the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all about now shifting the mindset of assessing workers' performance on their delivery and achievements rather than time spent in the office.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But that's always easier said than done, right? I mean, people have to kind of make the KPIs much clearer, ensure that it's tracked carefully.
Yeah, but I'm sure this is not only just benefiting the working moms, but that's too, those caring for elderly parents and
Elderly
everyone
parents,
in
yeah.
general.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset will really help overall. Yeah. So organizational culture, Shalini, is among the reasons women abandon their careers. So, what are the steps you suggest to drive a culture that eliminates the gender bias?
So I look at it as two parts to it, Kalpana. First, there are a set of things that I think the organization should definitely work on and do, but there are also a set of things that I think we women who are in the workforce should do. So, in my view, from an organization perspective, there is an imperative need to educate both men and women on what exactly are gender biases and how they manifest themselves. Today, I think there is a general talk about gender bias, but sometimes people don't understand. It may be subconscious, it may be unconscious about the wordings that are used, about some of the policies that are in place, etc. So, how do you educate the organization, both men and women, on what are some of the things to look out for, what are some of the things to avoid? So it's a formal education on gender biases, etc. That's one thing. The second is the organization must accept and recognize the fact that women do have different needs. There will be a time when marriage, childbirth, etc. will come in, and these are imperatives. How do you then cater for it? And I'll give you a couple of examples of what Federal Bank does. We do have a women workforce, very large one, and yes, maternity leave is a part of the cycle. But what we do is we assign a buddy to the lady going on maternity leave who's in the office. And the buddy's role is really to keep in touch with the lady all through the 6 month period to make sure that she knows what are some of the new products that have come out, what are some of the changes happening in the organization, what are some of the regulatory changes that are happening, so that when she comes back to work, it's not like a fish out of water. That 6 months that she's been away, she's had enough inputs to make sure that she can come in and start working literally from day one. So that helps her keep connected to the organization, and it helps the organization to ensure we don't lose a talented lady because she's unable to kind of gel back into the system. So I think those are some of the interventions that help. The other is gender diversity should never be a tick box exercise. It should be a board agenda. It should be a HR agenda. It should be a people agenda for everybody concerned. Do it because it's adding value to the organization, not because somebody's told us to do it or somebody is wanting us to do it. And the other is create an infrastructure that helps, whether it's in the form of creches, whether it's in the form of extra leave when things happen that require the leave. So I think policies and interventions of that. That's what the organization has to do. There is a big role for us women also, because I don't think we can just leave it to the organization and say the organization has to take care of all the requirements. It's up to us also to make sure that we do our bit. And I think the ones that we need to work on is, one, we should have the self-confidence and the assurance that we know our subject and we can add value to it. I find a lot of women kind of be diffident at a lot of times when they don't need to be. The other is continuous learning. We sometimes lose track of the fact that we should be continually learning and educating ourselves, unlearning what we've learned earlier, relearning things. The third is to have the humility to accept that we will not know everything. Reach out to the right people. The fourth is have a support system. I have gained tremendously from my support system, and it's been friends, it's been mentors, it's been coaches, it's been parents, it's been a lot of people who've been my support system, and I have no hesitation in saying I will reach out to my support system. Last but not the least, there are opportunities out there, and it's up to us women to seize those opportunities and make the best of it. So I think the congruence of what the organization does and what we women do will bring the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really nice to know the policies, which are favoring women in Federal Bank. And I'm sure many companies have started supporting women into more senior roles and started practicing with no parity in salaries on gender basis.
Yeah.
So these are some good things which have started happening now. So,
Yes.
what is your advice to women to escalate themselves to leadership positions, and how are we inspiring women to become next gen leaders?
So I think I alluded to some of it in my answer to the previous question, but just to add to a thing, one, I spoke about the benefit of self-confidence and assurance. I know, like I said, I know women who will not apply for a role if they don't think they're like 11 out of 10 ready. I think that's, comes from some amount of diffidence, some amount of lack of self-confidence. I think we should overcome that, and it'll only come with us putting our best foot forward. It's a very individual trait. The other is the benefit of networking. I think we miss out on the fact that networking helps. And I don't mean networking of the kind where, you're going to restaurants, etc. That's a different kind of networking. It's just reaching out to the support system, attending, webinars and learning from those people out there, and then reaching out to those people and being proactive in doing that networking. The third is this whole aspect of mentoring. I do believe it has helped me a lot. I've had formal and informal mentors during my entire career, and even today I reach out to them where required. I think women should seek out mentors. If the organization has a formal mentoring program, great. Even if it doesn't, there are enough of other opportunities to have that. So I think between all of these, I think is what is required. Yes, it takes discipline, it takes hard work, it takes resilience, but I think the prize is out there for all of us.
Yeah, sure. So I completely agree with you. Every successful entrepreneur, I would say, the business leader did what they were afraid to do instead of just letting the fear rule in their personal and professional life. So, definitely, our advice is that they take the bull by the horns, know what you want, and be relentless in your preparation. So
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
so you've mentioned twice or thrice about the mentor. So I would love to know who is your mentor, and what are the things which inspired you most.
So I think, like I mentioned, I've been the beneficiary of a lot of formal and informal mentoring through my kind of career. But I think one of the mentors I would really kind of place a lot of credence by and has really helped me has been one of my former bosses. And I think the attributes that I took from the person were really about how important it is to be disciplined, how important it is to be focused on what the outcomes are and work towards those outcomes, how to be very, very clear on prioritization, because a day can come up with multitude of things that needs to be done, but be very focused on what you want to achieve so that you can prioritize your schedule very clearly and work towards that. The other is to have a very people-centric approach, be available for people, be open in communication, and last but not the least, be responsible for what the team has done. When success comes, it's the team's victory. When there is, God forbid, some issue or a problem, it's your individual responsibility. So these are some of the attributes that my, that this particular mentor of mine has kind of ingrained in me. And I think I've tried to live up to those ideals.
Yeah. So completely agree with you, Shalini, for most of the things, and I think still there is a lot of things yet to go when it comes to the women in the workplace, and you have also mentioned, and even we agree that the women should not hesitate accepting themselves among the wealthiest, most educated, and powerful on the planet, and that they have not risen to their current title by accident. We must trust and use our own voice. To conclude, I think to sum it up, we can say that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so
Thank you.
thank you so much, Shalini. It was an
Thank you,
absolute
Kalpana.
pleasure talking to you, and
Yeah.
I'm sure the women's out there will definitely they will definitely get inspired by your thoughts.
Thank you very much, and best wishes to everybody.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.